Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1498 of our daily content grind. So today it is another tale from the toy store, though this is something of a continuation of something we have talked about in the past. Previously, we discussed the Tetris game. And what is the Tetris game? So for those who didn't see the first video, for those who don't remember it, it has been a long time and I have given you a lot of videos to watch since then. The Tetris game refers to the general organization of the toy store in itself. So you gotta remember, like, a toy store like this is one of the more frustrating things to properly organize because all of the packaging is different styles, different sizes, and you have to figure out how it all fits together. The Tetris game is figuring out how all of these cardboard blocks fit together to make a cohesive, clean-looking toy store presentation. And sometimes that's very hard to achieve. So it is a task in and of itself to just put the stuff on the shelves, and I don't think enough people realize what a chore that can actually amount to. As a comparison here, I like the Tetris game. I find it this fun little mental challenge where I have to figure out how it all works together. My boss, on the other hand, the owner of the store, hates the Tetris game. He does not know how this stuff could ever fit together or where it's all going to go. So that gets left to me. So yeah. So it's a lot to do with just how it all fits together despite everything being differently shaped, and also keeping things together that make sense. You know, that way you're not just cramming things together because that just happens to be where my space is. You know, I'm not going to put my Polly Pocket toys in with my NECA aliens. You know? Both instill just as much fear in me, but I'm not going to put them together because thematically that doesn't work. So it's not just about, oh, it fits together, it has to make sense together too. Okay? You know, like at the moment, we're down on wrestling figures, so I've got a little bit of He-Man and Thundercats mixed in too because, you know, it's He-Man, it's also Mattel, just like the WWE toys are at the moment, you know, and it's big muscle men, you know? So that kind of works together. You know, same with my Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles. I don't have a lot of Ninja Turtles right now. Mix it in with the Power Rangers. There's your 1-2 punch of 90s toy shelf domination. So it has to all work in multiple ways. And you have challenges that you might not necessarily think about. So I'll give you this little conundrum because this is what I faced recently. What do you put near the door? So, like, simple as that. If you are organizing a retail space of any kind whatsoever, what do you put near a door? Because anything near a door is going to be at risk. Anything too close to a door is going to be really easy to just hide in a jacket or pocket and then just run to your car. And just, you know, it's prime for shoplifters. So you can't put anything too small near the door, and you also can't put anything too desirable near the door. And you also can't put anything like too expensive near the door. You know, because, you know, they'll run out with it just because, like, if it's labeled $300, they're not going to care what it is. If it's easy to get out of the store, they're just going to run. So you have a lot to balance there, right? Now, previously, that's where I kept my video game toys because it was a nice little selection of retro stuff, you know, a lot of familiar looking characters, but that selection thinned out considerably. So the front display, the first display you see when you come in the store, doesn't really look that good anymore, you know? And you want to put on a good face. You know, you want it to look like you got a nice selection of stuff the second they walk in the door. You don't want to just be like leftover, like full of gaps, haphazardly organized. You know, you want it to look nice, and you want it to bring this nice nostalgia vibe as soon as they walk into a shop like this. So I got to thinking, we have these Spawn figures that are on the main wall. So the wall that is opposite of me, the see, cardinal directions. Help me out here. The south wall of the store is all like almost half of it is, more than half really, is Star Wars. But then you get into all the comic book toys. So we had Spawn, followed by DC, and then Marvel. But the Marvel stuff was actually so plentiful that all the weird random Marvel things that we had accumulated over the years moved over to the corner that is also partially against the window of the store. So it's never been a great place for it to be. I put little like cardboard backers, like honestly, like the ones that you put in the back of a comic book bag. I put those behind the toys to keep any sun damage or fading from happening. But still, it's not an ideal spot. I'd really like all the Marvel to be in one place. And I got to thinking, we just did a sale on Spawn. So these have thinned out enough now that I could probably fit an entire gondola wall with just the Spawn stuff. This would actually work in the front of the store. It's low demand, and thus none of it is all that valuable, but there's a great amount of nostalgia in those old McFarlane toys because they looked so different. They were super unique for 90s toys, on top of the fact they were big. They were a lot bigger than your normal action figure was back then. So that was really attractive and appealing to a kid. And even if you didn't buy them as a kid, you knew them. Like, you recognized them from the toy store. You saw them in the back of your comic books or video game magazines being advertised. They look so much cooler than like normal Spider-Man toys did. So it's a nice nostalgia hit, and also the packaging on these are also very large. So pocketing them is not doable. So it seemed to fit all of my criteria. As long as I could fit them all on one gondola wall, this would be a perfect thing. It's nostalgic, low risk, low value. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So as I am trying to figure out how to get all of that into there, the boss comes in with this. About 25 more Barbie dolls that need a place to go. Now, we don't normally take in Barbie. They are very slow movers unless for some random reason Hollywood decides to put out a Barbie movie. They were kind of taken in as a favor more than anything. But our Barbie section was thinned out thanks to the Barbie movie. We had space for more. 25 though? Barbie dolls are not small. Like, their boxes, remember, Barbie has to have space for her hair to flow out and for her dress to flow out. So the boxes are unnecessarily huge just for the sake of visual impact. It makes it exceptionally difficult to stack. And all the Barbie doll shapes are different. All the box shapes are different. If they have one different accessory, it's a bigger box. If they have an extra outfit, it's a bigger box. If they're a holiday shape and the box is round on one side, I'm going to punch you. Stop it, Mattel. So I have to figure out all of that. And then on top of that, he tells me, oh, I want you to clear a gondola wall because I can fill it with Pokemon toys. He's sitting on just a ton of Pokemon Selects, a lot of those black boxed Pokemon toys that you see mostly at Target. A lot of the little battle figurines. He's just been stockpiling them, getting ready for Christmas. Yay! So here we go. Now I need to figure out how to get the front display cleared for the McFarlane toys to go in, and I have to figure out where the Barbies go, and I have to figure out how to get a gondola wall empty on the same time. Okay, so now we're playing Tetris on hard mode. This is Tetris after you've cleared a few dozen stages, and the speed is cranked up considerably. So, when it comes to the rearranging, there are two things that I look toward. One is the end caps in the back. So, right now, facing me, right in front of my desk, is the main aisle of the store. goes from the door all the way to the back where we keep the Pokemon cards in the glass case. And then to the right of the customer walking in are all the gondolas, those stand-up displays that have all the things hooked onto them. So the end cap on the backside of those is always where all the really random stuff goes that we don't really have like a full section for, you know? I've got a few loose McDonald's dolls, you know? I've got a little bit of Lego. I've got, you know, like one Cabbage Patch Kid. I've got a Betty White action figure. Sure. Doesn't have anywhere to go in any main section, so to the back it goes, to the back end caps. So they had a lot of space available, so I had to keep that in mind. Also, we started having a lot of sections like this. Just as you naturally sell through the toys, things thin down in random ways. You know, it's like, you know, it's like when I try to grow, like, I never try to grow facial hair in because it's super patchy. And that's kind of how, like, this is how my face looks if I try to grow in facial hair. There's also little gaps everywhere. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. So the idea here to the Tetris game is I need to try and get all the space together that I can. And the secret to the Tetris game is that you are not necessarily moving the toys, you're moving the gaps. That is the part that you don't really understand. It's like watching a lot of little water droplets flow together and create one large water droplet. You know, every time I move toys and rearrange and fill one full wall full of something, the space the space that I move them to already had extra space that is now moved over to where the toys previously were, where there was already some extra space. You know, getting a shelf that looks like this into a much tighter organized shelf means there's a lot of little gaps that no longer exist because they become part of a larger gap. And that's how it works. You need to work those little gaps together and work them toward the direction of the store you want that space to be in. If I want to rearrange something on the east side of the store, I have to start reorganizing on the west side of the store and work my way all the way to the door. It's challenging. This is where the Tetris game gets intense. So I did clear one full gondola. This used to be where I kept my 90s toys, which had a lot of random stuff on it, a lot of little weird mishmash things, and very few that was like really like enough to justify being there. We have a decent number of vintage Beetlejuice toys, for instance, but I also have like 2 Warriors of Virtue, 1 Mighty Duck figure, 1 Dick Tracy toy. So okay, all this random stuff, you go to the end caps. So we have this space free now. Meanwhile, there's also the front side end caps that I have to work with. So a lot of the random stuff from those also moved to the backside end caps. And then we had this, the Blockies display that has been up for a while now, but we've sold through most of it by now. What you see here is an old photo. We only have just a handful of the blind boxes left, a few of the model kits, because due to current events, do not discuss politics in the comment section. We have not had a restock of those in quite a while. So we took this, I took everything off and added to the Transformer section that was already getting thinned out. So now the Transformer section looks full again. Scuttled this display to the back. Once we can get a restock, I can bring it back out anytime. That's done. With those end caps done, all of those toys at the front that were part of the video game section have now become the end caps that are currently in front of me right now. I tried my best to organize said toys as kid-friendly on the left, adult-friendly games on the right. So, you know, your Kingdom Hearts is on the left, your Halo's on the right, your Sonic's on the left, your Mortal Kombat's on the right. I didn't quite get there, but it's close enough for me to go, okay, I can move on from here. With that space cleared, that's where I put my Spawn toys. And it is a perfect fit. Like, it is the exact amount of space all of them needed. And it's this great, very blatant nostalgia hit the second a customer walks in the door. It's a great piece. It's a great display. And it's very safe to put in the front of the store. All this worked out really, really well. In the midst of this, I'm crunching the Barbie doll situation, and I do eventually get all the Barbie dolls stacked up. Some of them toward the bottom, yeah, they're double stacked, but they're all there. They're all priced. They're all accounted for. Mostly, all I had to do there was move the big cars that were on the bottom shelf over to our back wall shelves, where those big boxes are still very easy to see. Being bright pink will do that, by the way. So I got what I wanted. I got my McFarlane toys at the front of the store. I got that display that I wanted. And my boss got what he wanted, which was that gap, that open gondola. But that leaves us with this wall to deal with. So, if you look in the far left, like not quite to where the red boxes are, that's Star Wars Black Series. That sea of blue right there before you start getting into the DC toys, that's where the spawn was. So I had this nice 2-panel gap on the wall. I move the DC stuff down to fit against the Star Wars stuff. And as I do, I rearrange and clean up the DC toys. So they look and are organized way better. I have 2 completely clear panels of grid wall to put all of the Marvel stuff that's in the window corner onto the wall. Perfect. All right, so this is a quick, simple transfer. And then my brain says, wouldn't it look better if all the Marvel Legends were moved over to be against the DC toys that are all collectibles? And then all the weird random Marvel stuff is still on the far right like it's always been. And then it kind of goes from like the most serious to least serious stuff. And like there's actually this organization to it. And it's still kind of remotely where it was before. Just breathe, TJ. Hate your brain later. All the stuff in the corner was there because it's so weird and random. Like, it's like it's weird minifigs of Marvel characters. It's the 3 3/4 inches that nobody wants anymore. It's, like little die-cast X-Men toys. It's like, it's a lot of weird shapes. Like, they're in the corner because I didn't want to try figuring out the Tetris game for them. And now my brain is ordering me to figure out the Tetris game and to intermix them with the toys that are already on the comic book wall. I started this project a little bit last week. As I record this video, I finished it this week. And this is the result. And for my money, this is really pretty. All my Marvel Legends are on the left side, including the retro ones, the ones from Toy Biz, and all of my loose ones, and my bin full of Build-A-Figure parts. And then we move into the retro figures that are still like normal Marvel toys, and then other large-scale Marvel figures. And then you move farther over to the right where we get to some like really random one-off toy lines. We get silly stuff like old Bendham's figures, like the retro style ones because Marvel wanted to do their own reactive toys and no one bought them. So, yeah, it all worked out. It took me a while to figure the whole thing out and get everything shifted over, but the Tetris game works. If you have faith in the process, the Tetris game will work out and reward you with this very lovely display of toys. Even as I'm looking at the back wall here, I can see this like level playing field from like the top of the DC stuff, from the top of the Marvel and X-Men stuff all the way down. It's very, very clean. It's visually, mentally satisfying to see. Just another look at it. Like, yeah, you can see just how much nicer the DC section looks, how nice the Legends section looks, etc., etc. And then that leaves me with that big corner. And I can do whatever I want with that corner now. Like, that was my space to gain, and now I have it. So Do I want to move some Funko Pops over there? Do I want to put some posters or pictures there? Stuff that's not going to get sun damaged by being against the window, all that. I've got so many options now. It's just nice to have an open space just in case I need it. And honestly, it's space that I really don't need to do anything with. It's big and wide open, but being against a window means it's not really hurting anything to just be there. It doesn't need to be filled. It just can be. So it's better to have all my space there than it is scattered amongst the shop. And everything else in the shop now looks nice and tight. No gaps in between anything. It looks a lot cleaner. So yeah, it's satisfying. It's rewarding in a weird way to see the fruits of all that labor come together and form this beautiful pie. We'll go with that. And then I get a text from the boss. You might have to move your He-Man and your Thundercats because we might have a lot more wrestling figures coming in. You know the other reason I call it the Tetris game? Because it never really ends. It just keeps going. But that, my friends, is the Toy Store life.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.